Hey everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel Code and Create. In today's video we're going to build an awesome shopping cart application using ReactJS and Tailwind CSS. If you're new here, my name is George and I run this channel together with my friend Lasha. Between the two of us, we've been teaching students for several years on various popular platforms. Over the years, we've had the privilege to teach more than 100,000 students worldwide, helping them become better web developers and gain confidence in building real-world projects. If you are excited to build this project with us, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our future tutorials. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or ideas, drop them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's talk about today's project. Building a shopping cart is one of the most important skills to have as a front-end developer. Why? Because e-commerce applications are everywhere and continue to grow in popularity. At the heart of every e-commerce site, there is a shopping cart, the feature that allows users to add, manage, and purchase items seamlessly. Throughout this project, we will use the Context API. It is a powerful tool in React that simplifies state management, making it perfect for projects like this where multiple components need to access and update the same data. So whether you're just starting out or you're an experienced developer, knowing how to build a functional shopping cart will set you apart and give you the confidence to tackle larger, more complex projects. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functional shopping cart that's responsive, looks great on all devices, and includes features like adding items, removing them, updating quantities, and saving everything in local storage. Now that we've set the stage, let's take a detailed look at the project we're going to build together, a fully functional shopping cart application using ReactJS and Tailwind CSS. To begin with, our shopping cart application will display a collection of products. These products will include essential information such as the name, image, and price of each item. This product data will be dynamically rendered on the page, meaning we will loop through the list of products and display each one individually. This ensures that the application is scalable, and if you want to add more products in the future, you only need to modify the data file. The app will automatically reflect the changes. Next, we will implement one of the core functionalities, the Add to Cart button. Each product card will have an Add to Cart button that allows users to add items to their shopping cart. When an item is added, its state will change, and we will display the updated cart functionality in real time. React State Management will play a crucial role here, and we will use the Context API to manage and share the cart state across different components seamlessly. Once an item is added to the cart, the UI will dynamically change. Instead of the Add to Cart button, users will see a section with minus and plus buttons to decrease or increase the quantity of the product in the cart. This gives users full control to manage their cart items directly. Additionally, we will display the number of items currently in the cart, so it's clear how many units of each product are selected. We will also include a Remove button that allows users to remove an item from the cart entirely. Once clicked, the product will be removed, and the interface will revert to the Add to Cart button, providing a smooth and intuitive experience. Now, what is a shopping cart without a total price feature? We will calculate the total price of all the items added to the cart dynamically. If you increase or decrease the quantity of a product, the total price will update in real time to reflect those changes. To make it clean and professional, we will also format the total price to display it as a proper currency, ensuring there are no weird decimals or inconsistent formatting. To enhance the user experience even further, we will integrate local storage into the project. This means that if you refresh the page or come back later, your cart data will be saved and automatically restored. The items you added, their quantities, and the total price will all persist, creating a seamless and user-friendly experience. We are also going to build a responsive shopping cart that looks great on all devices. Whether someone is using a large desktop screen, a tablet, or a small mobile phone, the app will adapt perfectly. We will use Tailwind CSS responsive utilities to adjust the layout and ensure everything scales and aligns properly across different screen sizes. By the end of this project, you will have a professional-looking shopping cart application that includes all the core features you'd expect in a real e-commerce app. Displaying products dynamically, add-to-cart functionality, updating item quantities with plus and minus buttons, removing items from the cart, calculating the total price dynamically, persisting cart data with local storage, and a responsive design for all screen sizes. This project combines essential concepts in React, state management, context API, and Tailwind CSS to give you a well-rounded understanding of building interactive and functional components. By the end, you will not only have a fully working shopping cart, but also the confidence to implement these features in your own projects. Now that we know what we are going to build and the features we will implement, let's dive in and get started. I created a new folder called Shopping Cart, which right now is empty. Let's go ahead and open it in VS Code. So the first thing that we have to do is to create a React application with Tailwind CSS. Before we do that, I want to make sure that you already have Node.js installed on your computer. Node.js is a runtime environment and allows us to create server-side applications using JavaScript. In our case, we need Node.js because we're going to use npm, Node Package Manager. So in order to install Node.js, you have to search for Node.js, go to the website, download it, and install. It is a very simple and straightforward process, so I'm not going to go through it. Okay, so I hope you installed Node.js successfully. As I said, we have to create our React application with Tailwind CSS. For that, I'm going to use one of the build tools called Vite. It is a build tool that lets you configure a development environment for different frameworks, such as React, Vue, Svelte, and so on. Let's go ahead and search for React Tailwind Vite. Let's visit this website. So this is a Tailwind CSS website where you can find the information about this technology. You can go to the documentation and find everything about Tailwind CSS. Right now we just need here the installation. So here we have these tabs, the commands that will allow us to create a React application and then install Tailwind CSS. In order to run these commands, we need terminal. To open the terminal, you can press Ctrl plus backtick, the tilde sign. Mostly, this key is placed below the escape on the keyboard. There is another way to open terminal. You can find terminal in the menu. And if you don't see here terminal, you can go to view and find terminal. Alright, so once the terminal is open, we have to run npm create vite at latest. Then the name of the application, in our case, is going to be shopping cart. Then we need 2 dashes. Then again 2 dashes with template. And finally React. Alright, so let's break down this command. npm create with latest tells npm to create a new project using the latest version of Vite. Shopping cart is the name of the project folder. As for the template React, it specifies that we want to use the React template provided by Vite. So our React application is created. We have here a new folder called shopping cart. It includes a bunch of files and folders. We'll go through them in a minute. The next thing that we need to do is to install Tailwind CSS. For that, first we need to enter the folder shopping cart. Then we have to run npm install -d. The -d flag in the command means that the package, in this case Tailwind CSS, will be added as a development dependency. Development dependencies are packages that are only needed during the development phase and not in the production environment. Next we need Tailwind CSS followed by Post CSS. Post CSS is a tool for transforming CSS with JavaScript plugins. It allows you to use various plugins to process your CSS code in a modular and flexible way. Essentially, it takes your CSS and then processes it through a series of plugins that can modify or extend the CSS in various ways. Next we need Auto Prefixer. It is one of the most popular post-CSS plugins. It automatically adds vendor prefixes to your CSS rules, which are necessary for ensuring cross-browser compatibility. So once the Tailwind CSS is installed, next we have to initialize it and create a configuration file. For that we have to run npx tailwind css init-p. So as you can see, the Tailwind config file is created. We need to modify it slightly, so let's go ahead and grab these properties and values from here and add them in our configuration file. Okay, so the last thing that we have to do is to run our application in the browser. For that we need npm run dev. So as you can see, a local URL is generated. We can copy it and paste it into the browser tab, or we can press Alt and then click the link. So as you can see, the application is up and running. Okay, let's place the browser and the editor side by side, like so, in order to make the working process simple and convenient. Now that we have our project set up, let's take a look at the structure of the generated files and folders. First we have node modules. This folder contains all the dependencies and packages installed for our project. When we run npm install, it installs everything specified in the package.json file into this folder. It is crucial for the functioning of our app, but we typically don't need to interact with it directly. Next we have public folder. This folder is used for static assets that can be directly accessed by the browser. Here we can place images, fonts, and other assets that don't change frequently. Right now, this folder includes an SVG icon of the vid. Next we have an src folder. This is the main folder where we'll be writing our application code. It contains the React components and application logic. Inside src, you will find assets. Assets folder includes an SVG icon of the React. Then you can find here app.css file. This file contains the CSS styles specific to the app component. While we might not use it at all in this project, it is a good place to keep styles related to the main layout. Next we have app.jsx file. This file contains our main application component. It is a functional component where we will define the layout and structure of our app. You can see here the index.css file. It contains the global CSS styles for our application. These styles are applied across all components and pages. Next you can find here main.jsx file. This is the entry point for our React application. It initializes the React application and mounts it to the DOM. Typically it imports React DOM and our root component app.jsx and renders it. Besides that, you can find here index.html file. It is generated outside of the src folder. This file is crucial as it contains the root div element where our React application will be mounted. It also includes metadata, links to style sheets, and other critical elements needed by the browser to render the application. Next, we will clean up some of the default files and folders that we don't need. This will help keep our project organized and focused. Here is what we will do. I'm going to delete the React and vid SVG icons. The first one is placed in the assets folder. As for the second one, the icon of the vid, it is placed in the public folder. Inside the public folder, I'm going to create an images folder. And here I will paste all the product images we will use in our application. These images are already on my computer, and I'll simply drag and drop them into this folder. Remember, when building apps like this, keeping your assets organized in the public folder is a great practice because they will be accessible at the root level in your project. Now, back in the assets folder, I'm going to create another folder called data. This will store any static data or utility files we need. Inside the data folder, I'm going to insert file called index.js. it will hold the data for our products. Let's drag and drop the file here. As you can see, it includes some data, and I'll go through it a bit later. Actually, you can download the images and also this file from the link in the description of the video. Next, I'm going to delete the app.css file from the src folder. Then open the index.html file. I'm going to delete the link to the fab icon and also change the title. It's going to be shopping cart. All right. After that, I'm going to open index.css file where we have some global styles. Let's go ahead and delete all of them. Then we need to grab the directives from the Tailwind website and paste them in the index.css file. So again, these are directives. They are special comments used in Tailwind CSS to include different parts of the Tailwind's generated CSS. The first directive is base. It includes Tailwind's base styles. It typically contains a CSS reset or normalization along with some base styles that are applied globally. These styles help ensure consistency across different browsers. The second directive is components. It includes Tailwind's component classes. Component classes are reusable chunks of CSS that Tailwind provides out of the box. The third directive is utilities, and it includes Tailwind's utility classes. Utility classes are single-purpose classes that you use directly in your HTML to style elements. Now, let's open app.jsx file in the source folder, delete the existing content, and create a new React component using RAFCE shortcut. This shortcut comes from the ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native Snippets extension, which helps us quickly generate React component templates. If you don't have this extension installed yet, I highly recommend adding it to your VS Code setup. So as you can see, a functional component is generated. It returns a single div element with the text up, and this text is rendered on the page. Alright, now that we have set up our project and cleaned up unnecessary files, it's time to start adding some functionality and structure to our application. Specifically, I'm going to modify the app.jsx file to display a simple product list. But before we dive into the code, let's take a closer look at the data that powers our app. The product data is stored in the index.js file inside the data folder within the assets directory. This file contains all the information about the products we'll showcase in our app. Let me walk you through the structure. The data is organized into three main categories: hoodies, jackets, and shoes. Each category is an array of product objects, and each object contains several properties that define a product. For example, the ID is a unique identifier for each product. The name gives the product a title, such as classic pullover hoodie. The image URL is a string pointing to the image of the product, and so on. Down below, you can find the variable all products, which is a comprehensive array that consolidates all the product data from different categories: hoodies, jackets, and shoes. By using the spread operator, this array merges the individual arrays for these categories into a single collection. By having a single array, we can easily manage, display, and manipulate the entire product catalog in one place, which simplifies the logic for rendering the products in the UI. Let's head over to the app.jsx file and start coding. I'm going to import the product data into this file so that it's available for use. To do that, I'm going to add the following import statement at the top of the file. We need import all products from assets data. This imports all the product data from our index.js file into the app.jsx file, where we can now use it. Now let's create the structure for our component. I'm going to modify the functional component to return a container that holds a heading and a grid of products. So here I'm going to get rid of app and then add a class name to the div element. I'm going to insert here grid because it's going to be a grid container. Then we need place, items, center, and also I'm going to define padding vertically using py equal to 20. It means that the padding will be 80 pixels on top and bottom. Then inside the div element, I'm going to open h1, and I'm going to add here the classes. So the first class is going to be text 5xl. So the font size will be equal to 48 pixels. Next, I'm going to make the text italic. Then we need to change the color of the text. It's going to be text gray 500. And finally, I'm going to create some space at the bottom using margin bottom 16. The margin will be equal to 64 pixels. As a content, I'm going to insert here trend alert must have outfits of the season. Now let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here nice and cool heading. All right, after heading, I'm going to take care of the grid layout. So I'm going to open div tag, and then I'm going to add here class names. The first one is going to be grid. Then we need grid columns to be 3. Then we need place items. Start, actually we need place items. Start. And then I'm going to add some gap equal to 10. It means that gap is going to be equal to 40 pixels. Now it's time to render the product items. And to do that, I'm going to use the map method to loop through the all products array. For each product, we will create a div with a key attribute set to the product's unique ID. So inside here, I'm going to open curly braces. Then we need all products. Next, I'm going to use here an optional chaining operator. I mean the question mark followed by the dot. This operator checks whether the value before it, in this case all products, is not null or undefined. If all products is null or undefined, the expression will safely return undefined instead of throwing an error. Next we need map method, in which I'm going to insert the callback function with the parameter item. The map method here is used to iterate over the all products array and return a new array of JSX elements, where each product is rendered as a product item. For every product in the array, map will execute a callback function that passes the current product item and dynamically will generate a corresponding item. So inside here, I'm going to return div. We need here closing div tag. And then I'm going to add here key attribute with the value item.id. The key attribute is crucial when rendering lists in React. It helps React efficiently update and manage changes in the DOM by uniquely identifying each element in the list. In this case, item.id ensures that each product has a unique identifier, allowing React to detect additions, updates, or removals without re-rendering the entire list unnecessarily, improving the performance. If we check index.js file, you will find here that each product item has a unique ID. Alright, so now inside here, I'm going to insert h2 heading elements, and as the content, I'm going to insert item .name. Okay, so now if we go to the browser, you will see that we have here the heading and a grid of product names displayed on the page. For now, this is a basic implementation to display product names, but it lays the groundwork for what we will be building next. Alright, let's dive into the next step of our project. Now that we've successfully displayed a list of product names in our app, it's time to make the UI more engaging and visually appealing. To do this, I'm going to create a new component called cart item that will handle how each product is displayed in the grid. This is an essential step because breaking our UI into smaller, reusable components makes our code more organized, maintainable, and scalable. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new folder in the src directory, and it's going to be components. Then inside the components folder, I'm going to create a file named cart item.jsx. This file will define a React functional component responsible for rendering individual product items in the grid. Now I'm going to create a new functional component using, again, the shortcut RAFCE. This is just the initial structure of the component, and we'll build on it in a moment. Next, I'm going to import this cart item component into the app.jsx file. So let's head over to the app.jsx file. Then we need import cart item from components cart item. This makes the cart item component available for use inside the app.jsx file. Now I will replace the existing development in the map function with the cart item component. So here I'm going to insert cart item, and then I'm going to add here key prop with the same value item.id. And besides that, I'm going to insert here a prop called item with the value item. Let me explain what's happening here. The cart item component is now being rendered for each product in the all products array. The key attribute is still present, and it's set to item.id, which uniquely identifies each product. React uses this key to optimize rendering by tracking which items have changed, been added, or removed. Additionally, I've passed a prop to the cart item component using item with the value item. Props are how we pass data from a parent component, in this case app.jsx, to a child component, which is cart item. Here the item prop contains the entire product object from the all products array. This means the cart item component will have access to all the properties of the product, such as ID, name, image URL, price, and so on. Next, we have to extract item in the cart item component. So let's head over to cart item.jsx file, and here pass item. Adding item as a parameter to the cart item function allows the component to receive the item prop that is passed from the parent component. Next, we are going to extract specific properties from the item prop passed into the cart item component. This allows us to easily access the product details we need to render, such as the product's ID, name, image, and price. Now, inside this function, I'm going to use the structuring, and I'm going to insert here ID, name, image, we need here image, URL, and price. This should be equal to item. Alright, next we have to add the content to the cart item and customize it. Right now we have here just hard-coded text cart item, and I'm going to delete it. Let's add class name to the development. The class name is going to be group. The group class in Tailwind CSS is a utility that enables you to apply styles to child elements based on the state of a parent element. It works by defining a group class on the parent element, which acts as a container, and then using specific group-related pseudoclasses like group hover on its child elements. Now, I'm going to add here some other classes as well. The next one is going to be flex. Then we need to change the direction of the flex layout. I'm going to place the flex items in the column vertically. Therefore, we need here flex column. Then we need gap y equal to 2. Also, I'm going to add here border, and it's going to be zinc 200. Also, let's make the border rounded using rounded MD. Next, change the background. It's going to be white. And finally, we need padding equal to 24. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here those boxes. Next, I'm going to add here image. So as the source, we need image URL, which we have extracted from item. This image URL. As the alt attribute, let's insert here product image. Besides that, I'm going to define a width. It's going to be 300. Also define height. It's going to be 300 as well. And then I'm going to add here some classes. We need group hover. On hover, I'm going to move the image slightly up. So we need here minus, translate y2. And then let's make the effect a bit smoother using transition all and duration 500. Okay, let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the images are displayed in the cards, and once we hover over them, they will slightly move up. Okay, so everything works fine. Let's go back to the VS Code. After image, I'm going to open div elements, and I'm going to add here classes. So we need position absolute. Then we need position relative for the parent elements. This element. Let's add here relative. Then go back to this div element. So I'm going to define bottom position. It's going to be 5, and left position. It's going to be 5 as well. Inside here, I'm going to open h1 heading elements, and the content is going to be name. The product name. Also, I'm going to add here classes. We need text zinc 700, and also the size of the font is going to be SM. We need text SM. Next, I'm going to add here span elements with the classes text pink 400. Also, we need text SM, and the content is going to be price with the $sign. Okay, let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, we have here a grid displaying all the products dynamically. Each product is rendered with its name, price, and image. Okay, next we're going to use the Context API to manage the state of our shopping cart. The Context API in React is a powerful tool for managing state and sharing data across multiple components without the need to pass props manually at every level. It works by creating a context that acts as a central store for the data you want to share. In our shopping cart application, the Context API is particularly useful because it allows us to manage the cart state, like the list of products, items in the cart and their quantities, in one place and make it accessible to any component that needs it. Now, the first thing I will do is create a new folder in the src directory called context. So here I'm going to create a new folder. Let's call it context. This folder will house all the context related logic for our application. Inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file called cart context.jsx. This file will define the context for our shopping cart. First, I will import the all products array from the data because we will use it to initialize our products in the context. So we need import all products from, actually we need to exit the current folder, then we need assets, data. Next, I'm going to create a context called cart context using the create context function. So here we need to create new variable, and it's going to be cart context equal to create context. The create context function in React is used to create a new context object that allows you to manage and share data across multiple components without passing props manually through every level of the component tree. When you call createContext, it returns an object with two main components, a provider and a consumer. The provider is used to wrap the parts of the app that needs access to the context and supplies the shared data through its value prop. The consumer, or more commonly the useContext hook, allows child components to access the data provided by the context. In this case, this expression creates a context object specifically for our shopping cart application, enabling us to manage and share cart-related data efficiently throughout the app. Next, we have to import createContext from React. So here we need import statement, then createContext from React. Now, let's create a provider component. The provider is responsible for supplying the context data to the components that need it. The initial structure of the cart provider component should be the following. We need here export, then function cart provider. Then I'm going to insert here parameter children. The children prop represents the child components that will be wrapped by the cart provider. When the cart provider is used in the app, it acts as a wrapper around any components that need access to the cart context. The children prop allows React to dynamically insert whatever components are nested inside the cart provider. Here we need return cart context dot provider, and inside here I'm going to insert children, and also we need here provider. Inside here I'm going to add value. So again, cart provider accepts children as a prop, which allows it to wrap around any part of the app that needs access to the context. Inside the cart context.provider, we pass a value prop, which is an object containing the data we want to share. So again, the provider is used to wrap the parts of the app that need access to the context and supplies the shared data through its value prop. Now let's define the state that we want to manage in this context. I'll use the useState hook to create a state variable called allItems and also a function called setAllItems to update it. So inside here, I'm going to create state. It's going to be allItems. And then we need an updater function, setAllItems. It should be equal to useState. As you can see, the useState is imported from React. If you don't see here useState, then you should import it manually, otherwise you will get errors. Inside here, I'm going to add an empty array. So this allItems state will store all the products and will update it as needed. Now, I'm going to define a function called setItems, which will populate all items with the data from all products. So after the state, I'm going to create new function. It's going to be setItems. And inside here, we need setAllItems, the updater function from state. I'm going to pass here all products. So the setItems function is used to initialize or update the allItems state in the context with the data from all products. It calls setAllItems to replace the current value of all items with the all products array, which contains the full data set of products imported from the data file. Now that we've defined the state and the function, I'll pass them into the value prop of the cart context.provider. I mean, here we need all items and then setItems. At this point, the cart provider is fully set up to manage the product data and share it with any component that needs it. The last step is to create a custom hook called useCart This hook makes it easier to consume the context in our components. So down below, I'm going to add export. Then we need function called useCard. Again, it is a custom hook. It should be equal to an arrow function. And then we need return useContext. And we have to insert here card context. So as you can see, the useContext hook is imported automatically. So if you don't see here useContext, then import it manually. So as I said, the useCard function is a custom hook that simplifies how we access the data and functionality provided by the card context. Inside this function, we use React's useContext hook to retrieve the current value of the card context, which includes the shared state and any functions defined in the card provider. By creating this custom hook, we eliminate the need to repeatedly import both card context and useContext in multiple components. Instead, we can simply call useCard whatever we need to access the context data or methods. This makes the code cleaner, more concise, and easier to maintain. Alright, next we're going to integrate the card provider into our application. This is an important step because it will enable the context which is created to manage and share the cards related data across all the components in our application. By wrapping our application in the card provider, we ensure that every component inside it has access to the card context. So let me walk you through this process step by step. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to open main.jsx file. Then we have to import card provider from context, card context, and then we have to wrap app with card provider. I'm going to include app inside here. Okay, so by wrapping up with card provider, we are essentially saying that the entire application, including all of its components, is now a child of the card provider. This is important because the card provider supplies the context data through the card context.provider, and any component nested inside it can access the data. Now the final step in this process is to replace all occurrences of all products with all items in the app.jsx file. Let's go to the app.jsx file. This change is necessary because we have transitioned from directly importing and using the all products data to managing the product data through the card context. So first of all, we have to import useCard from card context. So we need here import useCard from context and then card context. Then inside here we have to extract all items and also set items function from useCard. And then we have to replace all products with all items. And besides that, we have to call set items function inside the useEffect hook. We need to pass here a callback function. So inside here, we have to call set items. And also we need to pass here second parameter, which is going to be an empty array. It is a dependency array. Also, we have to import useEffect hook from React, and we can get rid of this import statement from here. Okay, so I think everything's correct. Let's go to the browser. As you can see, the product items are displayed on the page. Okay, so previously the all products array was directly imported from the data file, and the app.jsx component relied on this local import to render the list of products. However, with the introduction of the card context, we have moved state management to a centralized location. The all item state in the context now acts as the single source for all product related data. Next, we are going to create a new component inside the components folder. It's going to be cart buttons, the JSX. This button will allow users to interact with the products, adding them to the cart. Let's go ahead and create new functional component using RAFCE shortcut. And now we have to add here the content. I'm going to get rid of this text from here. Let's add class name to the first development. So we need to define width. It's going to be max content. Then we need position absolute. And we have to define the right position. It's going to be 5. And then we need to position. It's going to be 5 as well. Inside here, I'm going to create another development with the class name. Actually, we need here class name space x3. So in this case, we have two margin properties, margin right and margin left, with the value 12 pixels. Then inside this development, I'm going to insert button. Let's add here class name. So we need background to be zinc 400. Also we need border, which should be rounded. The value will be MD. And then we need padding horizontally, PX equal to 2. As for the vertical padding, it's going to be 1. Next, I'm going to add here text SM. Also, the text will be white. Then I'm going to add here content. Actually, in case of this button, we need plus add to cart. Okay, so now I'm going to add here a little hover effect. We need hover, then background, zinc 500, and also we need transition colors. Besides that, let's add here type attributes and make it button. Okay, so once the cart buttons component is created, we will import it into the cart item file and nest it within each product cart. Let's go to the cart item. Actually, we need to add here key prop with the ID. I forgot to do that. Let's add here ID. Then I'm going to import cart buttons from cart buttons. And as I said, we have to insert it right after this development. So let's add here cart buttons. Now if I go to the browser, then we will get here add to cart button with this nice hover effect. Okay, now let's go back to the VS Code. Now we are going to add a new function to our cart context.js file. This function will handle the logic for adding a product to the cart. It is an essential part of the shopping cart functionality. So I'm going to add this function right inside the cart provider, where we manage all the state and functions related to the cart. Let's create a new function. It's going to be add to cart. It should be equal to an arrow function. And I'm going to add here one parameter. It's going to be item. So the function accepts one single parameter item. This item represents the product that the user wants to add to their cart. We will use this item to identify which product needs to be updated. Next, we need to update the all item state to reflect that this product is now in the cart. To do this, I will use the set all items function provided by the useState hook. So inside here, we need set all items. Then I'm going to add here a callback function. And as the parameter, I'm going to insert prev items. So the set all items function is called with a callback function that receives the current state of all items as prev items. This allows us to update the state based on its previous value, which is important because set all items might be called multiple times in quick succession, and we need to ensure all changes are applied correctly. Now, inside this callback function, we will use the map method to iterate over the prev items array. This will let us go through each product and check whether it is the one the user wants to add to the cart. So we need here return prev items dot map. Then inside here we need a callback function with prev item parameter. So the map method creates a new array by processing each product in prev items. For every product, we will check if it's already in the cart. If it is, we will return the product unchanged because we don't need to add it to the cart again. So let's go ahead and add the check with if statement. We need here prev item dot in cart. Then inside here we need to return prev item. So here in cart is a property of each product that indicates whether it is already in the cart. If it's true, we simply return the product as it is without making any changes. If the product is not already in the cart, we'll check if its ID matches the ID of the item the user is trying to add. If it matches, we will update the product's in cart property to true. Otherwise, we will return the product unchanged. So here we need to return prev item dot id equal to item dot id. Then we need a ternary operator followed by prev item, then in cart true, and then we need prev item. Okay, so this code uses a conditional ternary operator to check if the prev item.id matches the item.id. If it does, we create a new object using the spread operator to copy all the existing properties of the product and then set in cart to true. If it doesn't match, we simply return the product unchanged. So again, this function dynamically updates the all items state to mark the selected product as being in the cart while leaving all other products unchanged. It ensures that only the relevant product is updated without affecting the rest of the product list. Now, any component consuming this context will automatically reflect these changes. Alright, let's move on to the next steps in enhancing our shopping cart functionality. First, we need to add the add to cart function to the cart context provider. Currently, the cart provider is passing all items and set items in the value prop. So we're going to include add to cart function here as well. This change ensures that the add to cart function is now part of the context and available to any component that consumes it. Next, let's move to the cart item.jsx file. In each product, we need to add the cart buttons component and pass the item prop to it. So as you know, in each product, we have cart buttons, and now we have to pass the item prop to it. So we need here item with the value item. Here the item prop contains all the details of the specific product, such as ID, name, and price. Passing this prop ensures that the cart buttons component knows which product it's dealing with. Now, let's switch to the cart buttons.jsx file and make some updates. First, we need to import the useCart hook from our context file at the top of the file. So here I'm going to add useCart from context, and then we need cart context. Next, we will modify the cart buttons component to receive the item prop. To do this, we will destructure item from the function parameter. So we need here item. This ensures that the cart buttons component can work with the specific product data passed from cart item. Now we will extract the add to cart function from the context using the useCart hook. So inside here, we need add to cart from useCart function. This step gives us direct access to the add to cart function, which we will use to handle the button click event. Finally, we will update the button to call add to cart when clicked. For that, we need onClick event handler, in which we have to call add to cart function, and we have to pass here item. So when the button is clicked, the add to cart function is triggered with the item prop passed as an argument. This updates the cart state in the context, making the product as in cart. As a final step, let's add a useEffect hook in the app.jsx file to monitor changes to all items state. So let's go to the app.jsx file and run useEffect. We need here a callback function in which I'm going to run to the console all items, and then we need here a dependency array in which I'm going to pass all items. So this useEffect hook runs whenever the all items array is changed. All right, let's go to the browser and inspect the page. Go to the console tab. Once we click add to cart button, then we will get here all items array with all the 30 items from our data. Alright, the next feature we're adding to our app is conditional rendering for the add to cart button and the minus and plus buttons with the item count and a remove button. This will allow users to manage the quantity of items directly from the product cart. First, we'll head over to the cart buttons.jsx file, because that's where we handle the button logic for adding items to the cart. Right now we have a single add to cart button, but we need to update this to conditionally render different buttons based on whether the item is already in the cart. To do this, we will use the in-cart property from the item prop. So here is how we start. Instead of always rendering the add to cart button, we will use a conditional expression. The condition will check the in-cart property of the item. So here we need not item dot in cart. This checks if the item is not already in the cart. If the condition is true, it means the item hasn't been added to the cart yet, so we will render the add to cart button as before. If the condition is false, meaning the item is already in the cart, we will render the minus and plus buttons along with the quantity and the remove button. So we need here a ternary operator, and then we have to pass here this button. So if not item.inCart is false, meaning the item is already in the cart, we render this section with the minus and plus buttons, the quantity, and the remove button. So here we need colon, parentheses, and we have to insert here a content. Let's add here div tag. Inside here, I'm going to add another div with the class name flex. Then inside here, we need button. Let's add here class name. It's going to be border. Then we need here rounded LG. Also, I'm going to add here padding px3 as the value. I mean the content of the button is going to be minus. Then after button, we need paragraph. Let's add here class name. So here we need flexbox followed by items center. Then we need gap on the horizontal axis with the value 1. And also we need here margin horizontally mx equal to 1. Actually, we need here 1. Inside the paragraph, I'm going to open span elements. Let's add to this span element a couple of classes. We need minimum width to be equal to 7. Then we need background to be green, 100. Also, I'm going to place the content in the center using grid, followed by place items center. Also, I'm going to add here border, and I'm going to make it fully rounded using rounded full. Inside here, I'm going to add 1. Then after span element, we need another span. And let's add here class name. So we need text SM, actually XS. And here I'm going to insert in cart. After span element and after this closing paragraph, we need button with the class name, border, rounded, LG, and then px3, padding horizontal. It's going to be plus button. Then after this closing div elements, I'm going to add another button, which is going to be remove button. Let's add here classes. So we need background to be pink with the value 300. Then we need MX auto. Also margin top is going to be 2. Next we need display block. Also I'm going to make the button rounded with the value MD. Then we need padding horizontally and vertically. The horizontal padding is going to be px2. As for the vertical padding, I'm going to make it 1. Then we need text to be XS. The color of the text should be white. Actually, we need here white. Then I'm going to add the content to the button. It's going to be remove. And finally, let's add here hover effect. On hover, I'm going to change the background. It's going to be BG pink 400. Okay, so actually, I think that's it. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the first 2 items were already added in the cart. That's why we see here those buttons. I'm going to refresh the page. So once we click add to cart buttons, then we'll get those minus, plus, and remove buttons. So the next step is to make the remove button functional, allowing users to remove items from their cart. This involves adding a new function in the cart context file, making it accessible in the cart buttons component, and then wiring it up to the remove button. So let's go back to the VS Code and open cart context file. So here we have to create new function. It's going to be remove from carts. We need here an arrow function, and we have to pass here item as the parameter. So this function takes item as a parameter representing the product the user wants to remove from the cart. Now, inside the function, we will use the set all items function to update the all item state. This ensures that our cart state stays in sync whenever an item is removed. So I'm going to call set all items function. Then we have to insert here a callback function with the parameter prev item, actually prev items. So the callback function allows us to update the state based on its previous value, ensuring that changes are applied correctly, even if multiple updates occur simultaneously. Inside this callback, we will use the map method to iterate over prev items. For each product, we will check if it's already in the cart. If it is, we will return it unchanged, since it's not the one we are removing. So inside here, we need to return prev_items dot map. Then we need a callback function with the parameter prev_item. So if the product is the one we want to remove, we will update its in-cart property to false and reset its quantity to 1. Otherwise, we will return the product unchanged. So here we need to return prev_item dot id equal to item dot id. Then we need a ternary operator. So if this condition is true, we need here a spread operator followed by prev_item. Then we need in-cart property to be false, and also we have to reset the quantity to 1. So I'm going to add here quantity to 1. Next we need colon and prev_item. Okay, so here the ternary operator checks if the ID matches. If it does, the product is updated by creating a new object with its original properties and setting in-cart to false and quantity to 1. If it doesn't match, the product is returned unchanged. Next, we need to make this function accessible throughout the application. To do that, we have to add remove from cart to the value. I mean this value object here. Let's add remove from cart. This step ensures that the remove from cart function is now part of the context and available to all components that consume it. Now let's go to the cart buttons.jsx file, and here I'm going to extract remove from cart function from use cart. This allows us to use both the add to cart and remove from cart functions in this component. Finally, I will update the remove button to call the remove from cart function when it is clicked. So I'm going to add to the remove button on click event handler, and here we have to call remove from cart function with the item. Now let's go to the browser, click add to cart, then click remove, and as you can see, everything works perfectly. Now we can add and remove items from the cart. Alright, now it's time to implement the functionality for updating the quantity of items in the cart. This will allow users to increase or decrease the quantity of a product directly from the product cart. I mean with those minus and plus buttons. First, let's go back to the VS Code and create new function in the cart context file. I'm going to add here new function, and it's going to be update quantity. I'm going to add here an arrow function, and we need here two parameters, cart item and then amount. So this function takes two arguments, cart item and amount. The cart item represents the product whose quantity needs to be updated, and amount is the value by which we want to adjust the quantity. Next, we will use set all items function inside here. Inside set all items, we will use a callback function to work with the current state, which we will call prev_item. So inside here, we need a callback function with the parameter prev_item. This ensures we are working with the most up-to-date state, even if multiple updates occur in rapid succession. Inside the callback function, we will use the map method to iterate through the products. This lets us find the specific product that needs its quantity updated. So we need return prev_items dot map. Then we need here a parameter item. For each item in the prev_items array, we will check if its ID matches the ID of the cart item. If it matches, we will update its quantity by adding the amount. If it doesn't match, we will return the item unchanged. So here we need to return item.id equal to cart item id. Then we need a ternary operator followed by object with spread operator item. Then we need quantity. It should be item dot quantity plus amount. If the condition is false, then we need here just the item. Okay, so actually something's wrong here. We need prev items. So let's break this down. The ternary operator checks if the ID of the current item matches the ID of the card item. If it does, we use the spread operator to create a new object with all the existing properties of the item, and then update its quantity by adding the amount. If the ID doesn't match, the item is returned as it is, ensuring no changes are made to unrelated products. Now that we've created the function, we need to add it to the value prop, as we did a couple of times. So we need here update quantity. Then we have to go to the card buttons.jsx file and extract update quantity function from useCard. Now let's update the minus button to call update quantity when clicked. So here is how we will do that. Let's find the minus button. Here we have it. I'm going to add here on click. Then inside here we need a callback function where we have to use if statements. So we need to check if item.quantity is equal to 1. If this is true, then we need remove from cart with the argument item. If this is false, then we need else statement in which we have to run update quantity function, and we have to pass here item and then -1. Alright, so let's break this down. When the minus button is clicked, it first checks if the quantity of the item is 1. If it is, the remove from cart function is called to remove the item entirely from the cart. If the quantity is greater than 1, the update quantity function is called with the item and an amount of -1, which decreases the quantity by 1. So if we go to the browser, click add to cart, then -1, as you can see, the item is removed from the cart. So everything works fine. Okay, now next we have to update the plus button to increase the quantity. Let's go back to the VS Code, find the plus button. Here we have it. I'm going to add here on click event handler. Then we need a callback function where we have to call update. Actually, we need update quantity with the arguments item and 1. So when the plus button is clicked, the update quantity function is called with the item and an amount of 1, increasing the quantity by 1. Finally, we have to change the hard-coded 1 with item.quantity. Let's go to the browser, click add to cart, then click plus button. So as you can see, the number is increasing. If we click minus button, it will decrease. Okay, so everything works perfectly. All right, next we're going to create the cart itself. This is an exciting part because the cart is a core feature of our application, and it's where users will see all the items they have added along with their quantities and the total price. In this step, we will focus on building and styling the cart's content, ensuring it looks clean and user-friendly. Once the cart is visually ready, we will dive into adding functionality to make it dynamic and interactive. Before we get started, let me introduce you to the library we will be using for icons in this project. It's called Lucid React. Lucid is a lightweight and modern library that offers a wide range of customizable icons designed specifically for React applications. Let's go ahead and search for Lucid React. Let's click here. So this is the website of Lucid React library. If we click icons, then we will find here lots of different icons. So we will use these icons in this project. Now let's go ahead and install this library. I'm going to open terminal and run npm install Lucid React. So once the installation is complete, we will be ready to start using Lucid icons in our project. Now let's go ahead and create a new component in the components folder. It's going to be shopping cart.jsx. Then inside here, I'm going to create a new functional component using RAFCE. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to import two different icons from the Lucid React library. I'm going to import shopping cart icon, and then we need X icon from Lucid React. Okay, after that we have to create the contents of the shopping cart component, and also we have to style this content step by step. I'm going to get rid of shopping cart from here. Then I'm going to cut these developments and open here React fragments. Let's paste back the development inside here. Now I'm going to add some classes to the div elements. We need here width to be 300 pixels. I'm going to use an arbitrary value. Then I'm going to define the height. It's going to be screen, which means that the height will be 100 viewport height. I mean 100% of the viewport. Next, I'm going to change the background. It's going to be gray, 200. Also, I'm going to change the position of the shopping cart. We need to make it fixed. Then we need right position, 0, and top position, 0. Also, let's use the index property to place the shopping cart above all the content of the page. Let's set the index property to, let's say, 30. Next, we need border left 4. And then I'm going to make top left corner of the element rounded using rounded TL LG. All right. So after that, I'm going to insert here another div element with the classes width full. I mean width equal to 100%. Then we need height to be 16, which is equal to 64 pixels. Next, we need background to be white. Then I'm going to set position to absolute. The left position is going to be 0, as well as the top position. It's going to be 0 as well. Then we need the index property to be, let's say, 10. Also, I'm going to make the element grid container, and then we have to place the content in the center using place items center. Next, we need border, and it should be rounded with the value LG. So this development will include heading and also the button with the icon. So inside here, I'm going to open H1 heading element with the classes. Let's add here text XL. Then we need text gray 600. And as the content, I'm going to insert here shopping cart. After H1 heading elements, I'm going to create button. Let's add here classes. We need width to be 9, I mean 36 pixels. Then we need the same height, I mean H9. Then we need background to be yellow, 400. Also, I'm going to set position to absolute. Then we need right position. Next, we need the index property with the value 20. Then again, use grid with the place items center. Next, we need border equal to 2, and it should be fully rounded. All right, so actually, I think it would be better if we see the results. So for that, we have to go to the app.jsx file and import. Actually, let's import shopping cart here. Then I'm going to nest it right after the heading. So let's add here shopping. Actually, we need here shopping carts. Now, if we go to the browser, then we'll get the shopping cart on the right side of the page. Now let's go back to the shopping cart.jsx file and continue adding the content and also the customizing the elements. So next, I'm going to add here hover effect. On hover, I'm going to change the background. It's going to be yellow, 500. And then we need transition colors to make the effect smoother. Inside the button, I'm going to insert icon that we imported from the Lucid React library. We need X icon. And then I'm going to add here, actually, let's close this component. I'm going to add here class name. Let's make the text white. So we need here text white. Okay, so as you can see, we have here the X closing button. After that, I'm going to create another button. Let's add here button elements with the class name width 9. Then we need height 9. Then the background is going to be yellow, 400. Next, we need position absolute, followed by the left position, which is going to be minus 14. Then we need top position equal to 3. Again, let's use the index property with the value 20. Next, I'm going to use again grid, followed by place items center. Then let's use border with the value 2 and make it fully rounded using rounded full. Inside that button, we need to include the second icon, which we imported from the library. So we need here shopping cart icon. Let's add here class name. We need text to be XS, and then change the color of the text, make it white. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here the icon of the cart. Next, I'm going to add here span elements. We need a couple of classes. So the first one is going to be width 6. Then we need height to be 6. Let's change the background, make it pink, equal to 400. Then we need absolute. The positions will be minus bottom equal to 4. Then we need minus left equal to 2. Again, we need grid, place items, center. Actually, we are using here some similar styles. So next we need border. It's going to be gray, 300. Then let's make border rounded using rounded full. Also, I'm going to make text SM and then change the color, make it white. Inside this span, I'm going to insert a hard-coded value, say 1. Okay, so here we have the number of items. Right now it is a hard-coded value, but we will make it dynamic soon. Let's go back to the VS Code and continue customizing the content of the shopping cart. Next, I'm going to add here div elements. Let's add class name. I'm going to define height. It's going to be screen. Next, we need to use flexbox. We need flex followed by flex column, because we're going to change the direction of the flex layout. It's going to be vertical. Next, I'm going to create some space using gap y3. Also, we need to make the element scrollable using overflow y. We need here scroll. Then I'm going to set px to 5. Then we need padding at the bottom using pb. It's going to be equal to 24. And finally, we need padding at the top equal to 20. So this element will include all the added product items in the cart. Next, I'm going to add here another div element. Let's add classes. So we need here width, full, then height is going to be 20. Then we need background to be equal to white. Next, we need position absolute, followed by the bottom position equal to 0. Then we need left position 0. Then the index property is going to be 10. Also, I'm going to use again grid, followed by place items center. And finally, we need border with rounded LG. So inside here, I'm going to insert h1 heading element. Actually, we are working now on the total price section. So let's add here class name. We need here text XL. Then we need text gray equal to 600. And as the content, I'm going to insert here total. Let's say 155. Okay, let's go to the browser. So we have here the total price. Actually, the border should have different color here. Let's go back to the VS Code. So we have border left 4, and actually we are missing here the color in the border. Red 200. All right. So next, I'm going to add the button after the h1 heading element. So let's add here button. I'm going to add plus. Let's make it rounded, MD. Then we need background to be blue, 300. Also, I'm going to add here padding X equal to 2. Then let's make text white. Next, we need hover effect. On hover, I'm going to change the background. Let's make it blue, 400. And also add here transition colors. As the contents, I'm going to add here by now. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here this nice button in the total price section. Okay, so that's it about the content and the customization of the shopping cart. Next, we have to add the functionality to open and close the cart. Okay, so first we will manage the cart's open and close state using React's useStateHook. In the shopping cart component, we'll create a state. It's going to be is open, and then we need set is open. We need here a useStateHook. As you see, the useStateHook is imported automatically. Again, don't forget to import it from React. So here I'm going to add the default value false. The isOpen state will track whether the cart is currently open or closed. Initially, it's set to false, meaning the cart is closed by default. The setIsOpen function will allow us to update this state dynamically when the user interacts with the cart buttons. Next, we will modify the class name of the cart wrapper div to conditionally adjust its position based on the isOpen state. This ensures the cart slides in and out of the view depending on its state. So as you can see right now, we have here right position with the value 0. I'm going to cut the entire class name. Then I'm going to get rid of quotes, and instead of that, I'm going to open curly braces with the backticks. Let's paste back the class. So instead of right position, I'm going to add here $sign followed by the curly braces, and inside here we need is open. If it is true, then the class name should be right 0. If it is false, we need minus right, and the value is going to be 300 pixels. Actually, something's wrong here. We are missing the quotes. So now I think everything's correct. So we are using here a template literal to dynamically change the right CSS property of the card wrapper. If isOpen is true, the card is positioned at the right 0, which makes it fully visible on this screen. If isOpen is false, the card is shifted off screen with a right 300 pixels, effectively hiding it. This approach allows for a smooth sliding animation thanks to Tailwind CSS transitions. Now let's add the onClick event handlers to the buttons that will open and close the card. For the button that opens the card, we will set the onClick event handler. So let's go ahead and find the button. Here we have it. I'm going to add here onClick event handler, and inside here we need a callback function followed by set is open function, and the value is going to be true. Let's copy this event handler and find X icon with the button. We need to add here on click, and the value is going to be false. So let's go to the browser, click. As you can see, the shopping cart is open. Then click X button and it's closed. Alright, so everything works perfectly, and now we're going to add the functionality to display items inside the cart. This is an essential step as it will allow users to see the products they have added to the cart along with their details. Let's go step by step and I'll explain everything as we build it. First, we need a way to store the items that are currently in the cart. To do this, I will create a new state variable called cart items inside the shopping cart component. So let's go back to the VS Code and create new state variable inside here. We need cart items, and then we need an updater function set cart items. It should be equal to uState, and we have to make it an empty array. So the cart items state will hold an array of products that are currently in the cart. Initially, it's set to an empty array because the cart is empty when the app first loads. We will use the set cart items function to update the state whenever the contents of the cart change. Next, we need access to the full list of products managed in the context so that we can filter out the ones that are in the cart. For this, I'll extract the all items variable from the context using the useCart hook. So first of all, we have to import useCart from, we need to exit the current folder, then we need context and cart context, and inside here we have to insert const all items from useCart. So the all items variable contains the complete data set of products, including their in-cart status. By accessing it here, we can determine which items are in the cart and update our cart items state accordingly. Now, we need to ensure that the cart item state is always up to date with the items in the cart. To achieve this, I will use the useFact hook. Let's add here useFact. We need a callback function, and then the dependency array in which we have to insert all items. As you can see, the useEffect hook is imported from React automatically. Okay, and so the useEffect hook runs whenever the all items array changes, which happens whenever a product is added to or removed from the cart. Inside the useEffect hook, we have to filter the all items array to find only the products with in cart set to true. These are the items the user has added to the cart. So inside here, we need to create new variable, which is going to be in cart items. It should be equal to all items dot filter. Then we need a callback function with the parameter item, and then we have to return item dot in cart. So the filter method in JavaScript is used to create a new array containing only the elements of an existing array that meet a specific condition. It takes a callback function as an argument, which is executed for each element in the array. If the callback function returns true, the element is included in the new array, otherwise it is excluded. For example, in our case, we use filter to iterate through all the products and check their in-cart property. Only the products with in-cart set to true are included in the resulting array, allowing us to dynamically display just the items that are currently in the cart. Once we have the filtered array, we have to reverse it so that the most recently added items appear at the top of the cart. Inside here, we have to add set cart items, and I'm going to insert here in cart items, followed by optional chaining operator. Then we need reverse method. This line is responsible for updating the cart item state with the items currently in the cart, while also reversing their order. First, in cart items is an array created using the filter method containing only the items from all items where the in cart property is true. These are the products the user has added to the cart. The optional chaining operator ensures that the reverse method is only called if in cart items is not null or undefined, providing a safety mechanism to prevent runtime errors in case the array is empty or hasn't been properly initialized. The reverse method itself reverses the order of the elements in the array so that the most recently added items appear at the top of the cart, improving the user experience by prioritizing recent actions. Finally, the setCartItems function updates the cart item state with this reversed array, triggering a re-render of the component to display the updated cart. This line ensures the cart remains dynamically updated and properly ordered. Now that we have everything set up for our shopping cart functionality, the next step is to display the items inside the cart. For that, we're going to use the map method to loop through the cart items array and render each item dynamically. Let's go ahead and add the necessary code inside the shopping cart component. So we have to add here curly braces followed by cart items. Then we need an optional chaining operator, then map function, and inside here we need a callback function with the parameter item. Then inside here I'm going to return cart item components, which right now is not imported yet. So here we need key, it's going to be item.id, and then we need item equal to item. Now we have to import cart item from cart item. So here we are using the map method on the cart items array. As we already know, cart items contains all the products that are currently in the cart. The map method allows us to loop through this array and return a React component for each item. In this case, we are rendering the cart item component for each individual product inside the cart. If we go to the browser, refresh the page, and add carts, then open the shopping cart, you will see here the selected items. we can remove them from the cart. Okay, so everything works perfectly. Now we are going to enhance the styling of the cart items displayed in the cart to differentiate them visually from the products displayed on the main page. This involves making updates to the cart item and cart buttons components by adding new props and modifying the class names dynamically. So let me guide you through the process step by step. First, I'm going to add here prop from cart with the value true. Next, we have to go to the cart item.jsx file and receive the prop from cart. The from cart prop will act as a flag to indicate whether this cart item is being rendered inside the cart or on the main product page. This allows us to apply different styles conditionally depending on where the component is being used. Next, we will modify the class name of the product image to conditionally apply styles based on the from cart prop. So, as you can see, we have here hover effect by default with the image. So we don't need this hover effect in the cart. I mean, for these items, as you can see, now we have the same hover effect here in the cart. So we don't need this hover effect. Therefore, the first thing that I'm going to do is to grab the entire class name, then delete quotes, open curly braces, insert backticks, and then paste back the class name. So here I'm going to insert $sign with curly braces. Then we need not from cart, followed by the and operator. If this is true, then we have to grab this entire class name and paste them here. So the class name now dynamically checks the value of from cart. If from cart is false, meaning the item is being displayed on the main product page, we apply the group hover and transition all classes, which enables smooth hover animations. However, if from cart is true, indicating the item is in the cart, these hover animations are not applied, keeping the styling simpler for cart items. Let's go to the browser and check. Now, as you can see, we no longer have here the hover effect, but if we hover here on the main page, then we'll get the effect. All right, now let's go ahead and update the class name of the product title, I mean the H1 heading element, to adjust its size for cart items. So here we have the H1 heading element. I'm going to grab the class name. Then again, we need here template literal. Let's paste back the class name. So here I'm going to add $sign with curly braces. Then we need from cart, followed by the and operator. And we have to insert here text as Sam. And in the same way, we can adjust the class name of this span element. Actually, I'm going to grab the entire value, then paste it here. Change the color. We need here pink 400. As for the rest of the, actually we are missing here quotes. Otherwise, this class name won't work. So if from cart is true, then we need smaller text. Let's go to the browser. Actually, it works. We have here relatively smaller headings than on the main page. And the same we have with the prices. Okay, let's go back to the VS Code. So next we need to pass the from cart prop to the cart buttons component inside the cart item component. Let's update the JSX where cart buttons is rendered. I mean, here we need to pass from cart equal to from cart by adding from cart with the value from cart here. We are passing the from cart value down to the cart buttons component, so it can also adjust its styling based on the context. Now let's go ahead and update the cart buttons component to receive the from cart prop. We have to pass it here. This ensures that the cart buttons component can now access the from cart value and use it to conditionally apply styles. Finally, we'll update the class name of the wrapper div inside cart buttons to adjust its size when used in the cart. So here I'm going to grab this class name. Then we need again template literal. Let's open curly braces with backticks and paste back the class name. So here I'm going to add from cart followed by the and operator, and then we need to scale down the element using scale 90. So when from cart is true, the scale 90 class is applied to slightly reduce the size of the button container, making it better suited for the compact design of the cart. If we go to the browser, as you can see, now those elements are a bit smaller than on the main page. All right, now we're going to add functionality to calculate and display the total price. This is an essential feature to show users the cost of their selected items dynamically. First, we will create a new state variable to hold the total price. In the shopping cart component, I'm going to add the following code. We need here new state variable. I'm going to insert here total price, and then we need an updater function set total price. It should be equal to uState, and as the default value I'm going to insert here 0. So the total price state will store the total cost of all items currently in the cart, while set total price will allow us to update this value whenever the cart contents change. We initialize it to 0 because the cart starts empty, so there is no total price initially. Next, we will calculate the total price dynamically inside the existing useEffect hook. The useEffect already filters the items in the cart, so we will use those filtered items to calculate the total cost. So inside here, I'm going to create a new variable, and it's going to be price. It should be equal to in cart items dot reduce. Then inside here, we need a callback function with two parameters. The first one is accumulator. Then I'm going to insert here item. So now we have to return accumulator plus equals item.price multiplied by item.quantity. Then I'm going to add here 0. And finally, I'm going to use set total price, and I'm going to insert here price. Okay, so let me break down this in detail. The reduce method is used to iterate over the in-cart items array and calculate the total price. It takes two arguments, a callback function and an initial value, 0 in this case. Inside the callback function, the accumulator starts at 0 and accumulates the total price as we loop through the items. For each item, we calculate its total cost by multiplying its price by its quantity. We then add this value to the accumulator, so the total price grows as we process each item in the cart. Once all items are processed, the final total price is stored in the price variable. We then use set total price function to update the total price state with this calculated value, ensuring it reflects the current total cost of the cart. Finally, we need to display the total price dynamically in the cart, so we need to replace the hard-coded value with the total price state, like so. So here down below we have this hard-coded value. I'm going to get rid of it, and instead of this value I'm going to insert total price. Let's go to the browser, open the cart. So as you can see, we have here total price. Let's add some more items. So as you can see, we have here some weird long decimals, and actually we no longer have here the dollar sign. So the next thing that we have to do is to format this value. By formatting it as a currency, we will enhance the overall presentation of the code. Let's go step by step and implement this. First, we will create a new folder. I'm going to call it Utilities. This folder will store utility functions that we can use across the application. Inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file called format currency.jsx. Actually, we need here currency. In the format currency.jsx file, we have to add the following code. Let's create a new variable, and it's going to be currency underscore formatter. It should be equal to new INTL. It stands for initialization. Then we need number format, and inside here I'm going to insert undefined as the first argument. As for the second argument, it's going to be an object in which we have to pass currency equal to USD. As for the second property, it's going to be style with the value currency. All right, then down below, we have to export function format currency, in which I'm going to pass the parameter number. And here we need to return currency formatter with the format method. And inside here, I'm going to insert number. Okay, so let me explain how this works. The number format constructor creates a new formatter instance that we store in the currency formatter variable. It is configured to format numbers as currency in the USD format and display them with the appropriate symbol. The undefined local ensures the formatter uses the default local of the user's browser. The format currency function takes a number as an argument, calls currency formatter.format to format it, and then returns the formatted string. This makes it reusable, so we can use it anywhere in our app to format numbers as currency. Now, we need to use this utility function in the shopping cart component. So let's go ahead and open shopping cart.jsx file. First, we need to import formats currency from utilities format currency. All right, now let's go ahead and update the total price display in the JSX. So we have total price down below, and here I'm going to insert format. Actually, let's wrap total price with parentheses, and then add here format currency. So here is what's happening. Instead of displaying the raw total price value, we pass it as an argument to the format currency function. This formats the number into a properly formatted currency string, including the dollar sign and rounding off any unnecessary decimals. Now, if we check the results, I'm going to remove those items and add them again. So as you can see, the total price is calculated. We have dollar sign, and also we no longer get these weird decimals. Okay, so the next step is to dynamically display the number of items in the cart next to the cart icon and ensure that the cart automatically opens when the first item is added. This adds a layer of interactivity and improves the user experience, making the cart more responsive to user actions. First, let's go ahead and update the code to display the number of items in the cart dynamically. Right now, the cart icon displays a hard-coded value 1, but we want to make it reflect the actual number of items in the cart. So let's go back to the VS Code and find the number 1, this value here. I'm going to get rid of it. So inside here, I'm going to open curly braces and insert cart items dot length is greater than 9. Then we need a ternary operator. So if this condition is true, then we need 9 plus. And if it is false, then we need cart items dot length. So here is how this works. The cart items dot length gives us the total number of items currently in the cart. If this number exceeds 9, we display 9 plus to prevent the display from becoming too large or cluttered. Otherwise, we display the exact count. This is useful for providing a clean and concise representation of the cart's contents while ensuring that users can still see if the cart is full of items. Now let's handle the scenario where the cart should automatically open once the first item is added. This involves wrapping the cart's entire content in a conditional rendering block to ensure it only appears when there are items in the cart. So I'm going to add here curly braces, and then we need cart items dot length not equals to 0. Then we need AND operator. If this condition is true, then we need to pass here the entire contents of this component. Let's grab it and paste it here. So here is what's happening. The cart items.length not equals to 0 condition checks if there are any items in the cart. If the cart is empty, the cart content will not be rendered. As soon as the first item is added to the cart, the condition becomes true and the cart content is rendered. So let's go to the browser, refresh the page. As you can see, the cart is not visible right now. Once we add the first item, then the cart will be appear. If we remove this item from the cart, it will hide. Alright, so actually we can say that with the functionality of this application we are done. Now we're going to add local storage to our shopping cart project. This will allow us to persist the cart data so that even if the user refreshes the page, the items in their cart will not be lost. Without this feature, all cart data resets to its initial state every time the page reloads, which can be frustrating for users. The first thing we're going to do is create a set of utility functions that will help us interact with the browser's local storage. For that, I'm going to create a new file inside the utilities folder, and it's going to be local storage fns.jsx. So this file will contain all the logic needed to save, retrieve, parse, and remove data from the local storage. I'm going to add here the following code. We need export, then the variable set item in storage equal to arrow function. We need here two parameters, name and data. Then we need local storage, followed by the optional chain operator, and then we need set item. We need here name, followed by JSON.stringify with the data. So what we are doing here is creating a function called setItemInStorage. This function takes two parameters, name, which is the key we will use to save the data in local storage, and data, which is the value we want to store. Because local storage only supports storing strings, we use JSON.stringify to convert the data into a string format before saving it. This is especially important because our cart data will be an array of objects. Next, we need to write a function to retrieve data from local storage. So down below, we need export, then variable get item from storage. It should be equal to an arrow function with the parameter name. We have to return local storage with optional chain operator. Then we need get item, and we have to pass here name. So here, the get item from storage function takes the key as an argument, I mean the name, and uses local storage.getItem to fetch the value stored under that key. This function will return the data in its raw string format as it is stored in local storage. However, we don't always want raw string data. We often need to convert it back to its original format, like an array or object. For that, I'll add another function, and it's going to be get parsed item from storage. It should be equal to an arrow function. We need here name, and then we have to return JSON.parse. Inside here we need local storage with optional chain operator. Then we need get item with the argument name. So the get parsed items from storage function retrieves data using get item and immediately parses it back into its original format using JSON.parse method. This is particularly useful when working with structured data like our cart items. Finally, I will add one more function to remove data from local storage. So I'm going to add here export const, then remove item from storage. We need here an arrow function with again name. And then we have to return local storage with optional chain operator. We need to remove item, and we have to pass here name. So this function takes a key as an argument and calls local storage.remove item to delete the value stored under that key. This can be helpful for clearing the cart data if needed. At this point, we've built a clean set of utility functions to handle all local storage operations. The next step is to use these utility functions in the cart context.jsx file so we can save and restore cart data. First, we need to import the utility functions at the top of the file. So let's go to, actually, we need cart context. I'm going to import the following functions. We need get item from storage. Then we need get parsed item from storage. Next, we need set item in storage. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to create a function called set local storage inside here. This function will save the current state of the cart to the browser's local storage. To ensure we are only saving items that are in the cart, we need to use a condition to filter those items. So here, I'm going to create new function, and it's going to be set local storage. It should be equal to an arrow function. We now need to add an if statement to ensure that we only save data to local storage if there are any products in the all items array. There is no need to run this function if all items is empty. So we need if statement with a condition all items dot length not equals to 0. What this condition does is check whether the length of the all items array is not equal to 0. The all items array contains all the products in the app, and if its length is 0, that means there are no items to save. If this condition is false, meaning the array is empty, the code inside the if block will not run, and the function exits here. Next, inside the if block, we need to filter the all items array to get only the items that are currently in the cart. To do that, we use the filter method. So here we need variable in cart items equal to all items dot filter. Then we need a callback function with the parameter item, and we have to return item dot in cart. The filter method goes through each product in the all items array and checks whether the in cart property of the item is true. If in cart is true, the product is added to the in cart items array. This gives us a clean list of only the products that are currently in the cart. Now that we have the filtered in cart items array, the next step is to save this data to local storage. For that, we will use the utility function setItem in storage that we created earlier. So right after this line of code, we need to insert setItem in storage. Then we need cart items followed by in cart items. In this line, I'm calling setItem in storage and passing it two arguments. The first argument is the key, cart items, under which we will store the data in local storage. The second argument is the filtered in cart items array, which contains only the cart items. Remember, the setItem in storage function we created earlier automatically converts the array to a string format using json.stringify before saving it. Now that the function is ready, we need to make it available to other components in our app. To do that, we will add it to the value prop of the cart context provider. We have to pass here set local storage. By including set local storage here, we can now access it anywhere in our app using the useCart hook. Next, we have to go to the shoppingcart.jsx file and extract set local storage from useCart, and then we have to call it inside the use effect. So we have to extract it from useCart. Let's add here set local storage, and then I'm going to call it inside the use effect hook. Let's insert set local storage. So let's go to the browser. I'm going to refresh the page, then open Developer Tools. If you don't know, you can find local storage in Application. We have here local storage. Then we need to click here. So right now, the array is empty. Once we add the item to the cart, then we will get here the item in the local storage. As you can see, we have here all the details of the item. Let's add another one. So now we have two items. So as you can see, the local storage works fine. Now if I refresh the page, then all the data will be gone. To fix that, I will now create a function called setCartItems from storage. The purpose of this function is to retrieve the saved cart data from local storage and update the all item state to reflect it. Let's go back to the VS Code, then open cart context.jsx file and create here new function. It's going to be set cart items from storage. We need here an arrow function. Now we need to check if there is any cart data saved in local storage under the key cart items. For that, we will use the getItems from storage function we created earlier. So inside here we need if statement. Then we have to call getItems from getItem from storage. We need here cart items. Then if this not equals to null, this condition ensures that the function only proceeds if there is data in local storage under the cart items key. If nothing is saved, the function will exit here. Next, let's go ahead and retrieve the data and parse it back into its original format. So inside here, I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be storage items. it should be equal to get parsed item from storage. And then we have to pass here cart items. So here I'm calling get parsed item from storage to retrieve the cart data from local storage and parse it back into an array. Now that we have the cart items, we need to merge them into the all items state. To do that, I will use the map method to iterate through the all items array. We will start by calling the set all items function, which is a state setter for all items. We will use it to update the state based on the cart data we retrieved from local storage. So here, right after this line of code, we need set all items. Then we need here a callback function with the parameter prev items. Next, inside the callback, we use the map method to iterate over the prev items array. So we need here return prev items dot map. We need here item as the parameter of the callback function. So the map method goes each product in the prev items array, which contains all the products, including those not in the cart. For each item, we will check if it exists in the list of cart items we retrieved from local storage. The result of this map operation will be a new array where we have updated the cart-related data for products that were previously saved in local storage. Now, we need to check if the current item has a match in the storage items array. The storage items array contains all the cart items retrieved from local storage. To find a match, we use the find method. So here we need matched item, which should be equal to storage items not find. Next, we need to pass here a callback function with the parameter storage item, and we have to return storage item dot id equal to item dot id. Okay, so the find method goes through each item in the storage items array and checks if its ID matches the ID of the current item from prev item. If a match is found, matched item will contain the corresponding item from storage items. If no match is found, find will return undefined, and matched item will be false. The comparison here is based on the ID because each product has a unique ID property that allows us to identify it. Now we need to decide what to return for the current item in the map method. If we found a matched item, we will use the matched item from local storage because it contains updated cart-related properties like in-cart and quantity. So right after this line of code, we need to return matched item followed by a ternary operator. If it is true, we need matched item, and if it is false, then we need item. So the ternary operator checks if matched item exists, if it is truthy. If matched item is truthy, we return it, replacing the current item with the one from local storage. If matched item is falsy, undefined, we return the original item unchanged. Now that we have created the set cart items from storage function to restore cart items from local storage, the next steps are to make this function accessible across the app. So we need to import it in the app.jsx file and call it within a useEffect hook to initialize the cart state when the app loads. So let's open app.jsx file and import get items, item from storage. Then we need get parsed item from storage. We need those two functions. Now we need to extract the set cart items from storage function from the use cart hook. But before we do that, we need to go back to the, where is the cart context? So we have to pass this function here in the value. we need set card item from storage. Now we are able to extract this function from use card. We need set item. I forgot its name. So let's go to the card context. Let's copy the function name and paste it here. All right. So the next step is to call this function inside a useEffect hook. Before writing the logic, let me explain what we're trying to achieve. We will first check if there is any card data saved in local storage. If there is, we will call the set card items from storage function to restore the card items into our app state. So inside the useEffect hook, right after set items function, we need to insert if statement where we have to check get parsed item from storage with the argument card items, followed by the optional chain operator. Then we need length not equals to 0 and so here I'm checking if the parsed card data retrieved from local storage has any items. The optional chaining operator ensures that we don't get an error if there is no data in local storage. Next, we need get item from storage with card items not equals to null. This checks if the raw card data actually exists in local storage under the key card items. If there is nothing stored, get item from storage will return null, and this condition will fail. Now, if the conditions are true, we should call set card item from storage. So here, I'm going to call set card items from storage function. This function will merge the saved card data with the current product list in all items and restore the in-card and quantity properties for each product. Alright, so I think now it should work. Let's go to the browser, refresh the page. As you can see now the local storage is empty. I'm going to start adding the items to the cart. So as you can see, we have here items in the local storage. Now, if I refresh the page, then the data will be stored in the cart as well as in the local storage here in the browser. Alright, so everything works perfectly. And now that we've built out all the functionality of our shopping cart app, it's time to make it responsive so that it looks and works perfectly across all devices. I'm going to switch on the responsive mode. So I have prepared a set of specific screen sizes and devices that are mostly used. I have here 6 desktop screens, 2 tablets, and 3 mobile phones. By making the app responsive, we ensure that users have a seamless experience regardless of whether they are viewing it on a large desktop monitor, a tablet, or a small mobile screen. Tailwind CSS makes this process smooth and efficient with its responsive utility classes, which allow us to adjust styles at different breakpoints. To make the app responsive, we need to slightly modify the Tailwind CSS classes in the app.jsx file. In this file here. We will focus on h1 heading element and also the grid container, which includes all the product items. So currently, the heading has some classes which works well on larger screens, but if we make the screen smaller, let's say mobile, you'll see that everything is messed up here. Okay, so let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to modify the classes of the heading. As you can see, we have here text 5XL, and I'm going to add here LG breakpoint. This class ensures that the font size remains 5XL on large screens, which is perfect for desktops. Next, we need to define another breakpoint, which is MD, and the text is going to be 4XL. On medium-sized screens, such as tablets, The empty text 4XL class reduces the font size to 4XL to balance the design. And finally, we need text 3XL. On smaller screens like mobile devices, the text 3XL class ensures the text scales down to a more readable size. Besides that, I'm going to add here px10 and also text center. Alright, let's go to the browser and check how the heading looks on different screen sizes. So as you can see, the heading looks good. Alright, so now we have to take care of the grid container. Let's go back to the VS Code. So the current layout creates 3 columns by default, which looks good on larger screens, but doesn't work well on smaller devices. On mobile phones, having 3 columns makes the cart items look too cramped and the layout becomes difficult to navigate. To fix this, we'll modify the classes so the grid dynamically adjusts its layout based on the screen size. Now we have to add here padding on extra large screen size. It's going to be px6. This class reduces the horizontal padding slightly on extra large screens, allowing us to use more of the available screen real estate. Next, we need px10. This creates space on the sides for smaller screens. Besides that, I'm going to customize grid columns class. So I'm going to add here XL. This class just restores the original 3-column layout. And then we need LG with grid cols2. This class changes the grid layout to 2 columns on large screens, such as tablets or smaller desktops. This improves spacing and avoids crowding the items. Now let's go to the browser and check the project for smaller desktop screen. As you can see, now we have 2 columns here. Let's check tablets. We have 1 column. Then we have mobile 1. And the smallest mobile screen size, mobile 3. So as you can see, everything looks pretty nice. Alright, now that we've reached the end of this video, let's quickly recap what we've built together. We started from scratch and created a fully functional shopping cart application using React and Tailwind CSS. We implemented features like adding items to the cart, updating quantities and removing items. We also added a total price calculation, formatted it as clean currency and used local storage to save the cart data, so it persists even after a refresh. Finally, we made the app fully responsive, ensuring it looks great on all devices, from desktops to tablets and mobiles. If you enjoyed this project and learned something new, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment to share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you won't miss future tutorials. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.